So I've been focusing a lot more on old school fragrances this year. I've set up a playlist on the channel called the Old School Fragrance Series. So if you want to look back at previous videos that I've done, have a look. I'll leave a link down below. In this video, I'll be taking a look at 5 really great smelling classic fragrances. And they are from Guerlain, Mouchoir de Monsieur, Hermes, Rocabar, Caron, Pour un Homme de Caron, YSL's Opium pour Homme, and Jaipur Homme by Boucheron. Stay tuned to hear my thoughts. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Raj here. I hope all of you out there are doing well. So yeah, as I said, I've been focusing a lot more on the classics and really enjoying wearing fragrances that came out years ago, decades ago. It's something that I've always been interested in, but to be honest, I think as time goes on, you focus on different areas of the perfume world, and maybe I've been focusing a lot more on newer releases. So yeah, I wanted to do this and go back to the classics basically. So the first fragrance to talk about is from Guerlain, and it is Mouchoir de Monsieur. Mouchoir de Monsieur came out in 1904, and in a recent video I did, I was basically thinking about which fragrance is currently still in production that has been out the longest. I thought it might have been Le Bleu, but Mouchoir de Monsieur came out in 1904, and actually as I was looking on the Guerlain website, I saw that Jicky, which is still available, came out in 1889, around that time. So probably should have known that as a Guerlain fan, but yeah. This one has been out for a really long time and it wasn't always available to the public. It means a gentleman's handkerchief, so hopefully not the type of handkerchief that you blow your nose with, but maybe the type that you would spray on a fragrance, and that's how scent was appreciated back in those times. Also, other stories I've heard is that, say like here in England, in Victorian England, because the sewage system in, I think especially London, wasn't very good, the infrastructure wasn't there, people used to scent handkerchiefs and little pieces of cloth to put over their noses to avoid the stench of sewage. Luckily we don't have that problem nowadays, but I'm glad that we still have Mouchoir de Monsieur. This is a great fragrance. This fragrance is described as Guerlain as a citrus fougere. There are notes of rose and jasmine and citrus, neroli. There's a woodiness, powdery accords, lavender, fougere accord, and I think yes, it is all of those things. But the main aspects, or the way that this plays out on my skin, is that it is like a lot of those classic Guerlains, like for example Shalimar. It has that sharp sort of sour citrus that's mixed in with a powdery accord, maybe a touch animalic from maybe like a civet accord. I'm not 100% sure, but it does create quite a bold, punchy, maybe to some people slightly off-putting, but I think that is not the main part of the fragrance. And if you can go through that, which is mainly in the opening, this is a really refined, elegant fragrance. It is powdery, yes. It has a floralness that comes through that is sweet, but it never pushes through too much. The neroli, I think, is bright and tries to push through this powderiness, the vanilla in there, the sweet vanilla, but never quite does it. It does add a nice element of freshness to the fragrance, which I really like. I think there are similarities to Florist number 89, but less heavy on the florals. This one is more mossy, woody powder, and I really love it. This is a great fragrance. It's actually my scent of the day. It's just classy, it really is. It does, look, some people might use the word dated. I just think it's from a different time era, where fragrances smell different at that time. It just smells different to what is out now. It doesn't mean that it's something that shouldn't be worn. I think it's really cool to say that I'm wearing a fragrance that was originally made in 1904 from a historic house of Guerlain. I don't know why it took me so long to properly test this fragrance. I tried it in stores, I tried it on skin, on paper, but never properly wore it, I would say, until recently, and I'm really glad that I've discovered it. I think I could definitely add this one to my collection. I like it a lot. Moving on to Hermes Rocabar. I've been working off this bigger size decant than the Guerlain, around 5 ml. Really allowed me to get a good feel for this fragrance, and I really enjoy it. It doesn't have the age as the Guerlain, but it was, it's got a few years on it, 1998. That's hardly young, to be honest. And this one is all about woods, balms, resins. There's notes of cypress, there's notes of amber and cedar, balsam fir. I do get all of that, but also what I get with this fragrance, especially in the opening, is a sweetness. Now the sweetness, I don't know where exactly it's coming from, but it feels like freshly cut grass with honey. It feels like maybe it smells a little bit like chamomile, actually. And also it reminds me of Cartier's L'Envol, which is a new fragrance, a relatively new fragrance on the market. But this one has a wonderful smoothness. It's quite, it stands out, I would say, in the Hermes lineup of fragrances. And to be honest, all of them are quite unique, to be fair. They all have quite distinct style, Equipage, Bel Ami and Terre d'Hermes, Voyage. They are really well put together. Hermes make really well put together fragrances. They're not a cool brand. They don't try and be trendy. They just do their own thing and are in that sort of upper echelon of designer fragrances. I feel a brand that I think I need to get a little bit more into. I feel like I only have 2 fragrances from them. So this one, yeah, the sweetness does continue. It does feel woody, but not in a sawdusty, not in a heavy woods. Not like, for example, Creed's Royal Oud. That one just randomly comes to mind because it's heavy on the cedar. This one contains cedar, but also I feel like it's, freshly cut wood, somewhere in a forest full of pine, but you're smelling that from, a distance. The wind is blowing all of that through, that coniferous, almost like eucalyptus minty greenness that you get from coniferous accords comes through. You get that freshly green cut grass with honey. It's really a fantastic fragrance. Very accessible, I think really mass appealing, but it's not a Terre d'Hermes, it's not a Sauvage, it's not a Armani Code. So I think maybe it might be overlooked, but hey, I tell you what, if you want to stand out in the crowd, this one is, it feels to me like it could be a little bit overlooked. Definitely worth checking out. A very nice fragrance. In 1934, the French house of Caron made Pour un homme de Caron, which means for the man of Caron. And I've tried this fragrance many times. In fact, whenever I buy decants and samples, vast majority of the time, I've tried that fragrance already, so I know what it smells like and I like it, or there's something in there that intrigues me, so I'll buy a decant. With this one, there's more to it than meets the eye. When I tried it in stores, it was basically, in my mind at that time, a simple lavender fragrance. And yes, you could say that now, but I think there is a lot more depth in this fragrance that comes through on my skin at least. Yes, it contains lavender and vanilla, and you could just end the review there, but the lavender has multiple facets. It's sweet and herbaceous, smoky, but that could be coming from maybe the vanilla as well, I don't know. There's a resinous feel in here, there's a mossy feel. It's really classic, it is a touch powdery, and I was like, where was all of this? I didn't remember it the first time I tried it. Sometimes when you're going around and you're spraying multiple fragrances, it gets lost in the mix, and this one, not being a particularly heavy or dense fragrance, probably did. It reminds me in some ways to Tom Ford's Beau de Jour, to MFK's Masculine Pluriel, or is it the other way around, Pluriel Masculin? And yeah, to be honest, a lot of other fragrances, but I still do feel like it is quite unique in its own right. And to be honest, 1934, shout out to the OG of the game. This has been out for a really, really long time, and I love the fact that it's still in production. This is clean, this is refined, it's really well put together. It's for a man who doesn't like to shout with their fragrances and not announce themselves when walking into a room, or even before walking into a room. This is very much a well put together professional. That's the feeling I get with this fragrance. I think I could see myself adding it to my collection. It's super affordable and it's definitely worth checking out. If you have tried this one, drop a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Alright, so we're moving on to a bit more of a punchier one. This is an oriental, spicy, richer fragrance. This is from the house of Yves Saint Laurent, and this one is Opium Pour Homme. This is the EDT version. There was a Parfum and Eau de Parfum version, but I haven't tried that one. It's now discontinued. This one came out in 1995. There is black currants and star anise, pepper galangal or galanga, which is basically a form of ginger or very closely related. Bourbon vanilla, Tolu balsam and Atlas cedar. Jacques Cavalier is the creator of this. I've always been aware of Opium, and maybe I had tried this one a long time ago, but again, maybe I just maybe forgot about it. I never really tested it properly until I got this sample. The Opium for women, that fragrance, I'm aware of it because my grandmother wears that fragrance, or she used to wear that fragrance. And when I tried this one a few months ago, the men's version, it wasn't even on the YSL counter. The lady had to get it out from the drawer underneath the counter, and yeah, maybe this one is not cool anymore, had its time, you know, La Nuit de l'Homme has taken over, and all the other ones, I don't know, but you know, YSL has some interesting fragrances in there. Why was this not on display? I don't really know, but what I can say, I really liked this fragrance. It is rich, spicy, but also has a freshness to it. There is a separation between the ingredients. It's not super dense, super spicy. I don't know exactly where that's coming from, but it feels like there could be a citrus lemon accord that's giving that feel, maybe. I also get a carnation note that is quite strong, to be honest. I don't think that was in the note breakdown, was it? Let me just double check. No, it's not on Fragrantica. It doesn't mention lemon either, but I get like a citrusy carnation, that for dense, spicy floral. Yes, this also has a lot of dry spices in there. Like you could imagine dry roasting spices and then letting it just cool down, and you get that smell of that star anise and the punchiness from like black pepper and clove, and it's all in there, but never overwhelming. Actually, it's quite a balanced fragrance, which I really appreciated. Yeah, to be honest, you know, I wore 2 ml. I probably need to test that a little bit more, or maybe I just need to get a full bottle. Moving on now to a fragrance that was composed by a great perfumer, Annick Manado. Definitely worth looking back at some of her previous work. It actually can be quite a good way to discover new fragrances. Rather than following the brand, you follow the perfumer. And this fragrance came out in 1997 from the brand Boucheron, who are more famous for their jewelry. This fragrance is called Jaipur Homme. This is the EDP version. I would now like to try the EDT because I was really impressed with this. I'm still working my way through this decant. A little bit goes a long way, that's for sure. Note breakdown for this one, you will get lemon verbena, cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla and woodsy notes. It's described as an oriental spicy, which, yeah, I definitely agree with. Super affordable, honestly, even at full retail price. This one can be had for a bargain, like Lalique fragrances actually. This one I felt was so well put together. I loved the transition from the start to the mid to the dry down. It kept me interested. It lasted a very long time. Was quite powerful actually at times, which is why I prefer to wear this fragrance on my wrist. Typically I don't wear fragrances on my wrist, and I prefer also to do maybe just one spray to the chest, or just do a couple of sprays on the lower part of your t-shirt or your jacket or whatever, your jumper, whatever you're wearing. I'll explain why in a second, but basically what I got with this fragrance was quite a refined baby powder accord, which to some people might be kind of off-putting, not gonna lie. I kind of like it. I like that it's like powdery and rich and smooth and spicy. It's vanillic. It's a little bit resinous also at the same time, which I really appreciate. And there is a it's restrained also. Not restrained, but I'm still working my way through this fragrance, guys, so not 100% sure about everything. But what I think I'm trying to say is that the ingredients are very balanced. You don't get one ingredient jumping out and screaming at you. They all get their chance to shine. It's very well made fragrance, as I've already said. When you first spray this fragrance on, the lemon is quite noticeable. It's quite bright and quite uplifting actually. And while it doesn't stand out, it helps bring a fragrance from maybe a very rich, powdery, woodsy, resinous way to a little bit more lighter. It really adds that, I don't know what you would call it, effervescent, or adds a brightness to this fragrance, which is generally spicy, powdery, woody, vanilla. But overall, I'm gonna wear this one down to the end and hopefully get a really good idea of how it is, and maybe end up getting a bottle. I love the fact that this fragrance is inspired by palaces in Jaipur in India, a part of India that I really want to visit. I visited a lot of parts of India, not Jaipur, not Rajasthan. Would love to go there. The bottle is in the shape of palaces. The top of the bottle is a type of jewelry or a stone or something that Boucheron produce. So overall, very, very classy, a really great fragrance. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Do you like this ones, or are you not too keen on them? What are some classic fragrances that you've been wearing recently, or you just generally like? And guys, hit the like button if you like this type of content. It helps out the channel. And I have a Buy Me a Coffee page if you would like to contribute to what I do. That would be really appreciated. Links down below. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, everyone. Bye.